preferred walk-on PFF's college football show. I'm your host, Max Chadwick, alongside my co-host, Dalton Wasserman, producer Eli back there in the studio. Just kind of tease you guys a little bit. Producer Eli will be on the show later on, so make sure you stay tuned for the end for our trivia segment that we're finally getting back to, Dalton. But we have a really fun show today in that one of the best parts about the college football offseason, in my opinion, is the transfer portal. Basically, college football free agency, and there's over 1,000 players in the portal right now. We're going to go over, using PFF metrics, our top 10 players currently in the transfer portal. Of course, there might be more guys entering it soon that might join our top 10, but these are our top 10 guys that are currently in the portal, Dalton. And, we were talking about before the show, there are so many guys that we could have had in this top 10 that we left out. It is a loaded portal class this year, man.
Oh, it starts with there's a ton of quarterbacks, big name quarterbacks who've played in huge games, especially this season. Ton of running backs that there's at least 5 or 6 that I considered for my list, and somehow I actually didn't get any of them on there, highlighting some different positions. But the running back class is loaded. You got things to work with at every position. This was really hard. I wrote down about 30 names starting out trying to figure out the top 10, and I'm still a little shaky on that they're actually my top 10, but I got to go with it now. I already wrote it down, and we already have the graphic for it. But, man, out of the 30, there was at least probably 18 or 19 that I consider. I was like, man, they could be in there. It's a loaded class. There's some really good football players here.
A lot of them, man. I have a top 25 article coming out for PFF.com pretty soon, and that was impossible to narrow down top 25, man. So really loaded transporter class. We'll get into our top 10s in just a second. But first, Dalton, we've got to talk about, the best player in college football this year, the guy who ultimately won the Heisman Trophy. We got a little bit nervous when Michael Penix Jr. took home the Maxwell Award because of the last 9 Heisman winners, only one of them didn't win the Maxwell Award. That was Kyler Murray in 2018 when Tua Tagovailoa took home the Maxwell. So we were a little nervous when Penix won the Maxwell that he will also take home the Heisman. But thankfully, our guy Jayden Daniels took home the Heisman Trophy. We have an interview with Jayden you can check out on our channel as well. I actually talked to him about winning the Heisman potentially, and he said it would be a dream come true. Well, a dream came true for Jayden Daniels, Dalton, and it's a very, very well-deserved dream come true for Jayden Daniels as well.
Yeah, it's been a long road for him from Arizona State to LSU, and all the progress he's made in his career. And to become everything that scouts and recruiters thought he could become is incredible. And this was an incredible race coming down past the last game of Daniels' season. Honestly, really, there's still probably some thought that if Oregon had beaten Washington in the Pac-12 title game, that Bo Nix would have won the award. But no, Daniels, I actually think Daniels, based on the numbers, deserved it regardless. It's a shame that their defense just couldn't hold it together in the big games. And they lost to 3 of the top 11 teams in the country. So It's not like a ton of shame in their losses. You have one that should have been in the playoff, one that is in the playoff, and Ole Miss, who's an excellent football team, and that game went down to the wire. But no, Daniels was absolutely incredible. And when you look at his progress this year, we knew he was a great runner, and we knew he could protect the football. He was elite at that. To add in the dimensions, the big play dimensions, and what they did, they were really the best offense in the country, right? But still, he finished his career with the best turnover-worthy play rate in the Power 5 in PFF history.
Wow.
Okay. He has the best rushing grade by any Power 5 quarterback in PFF history. Then you add in the fact that he added all the big play to it, right? Nearly doubled his big-time throws. Total from last season, right? His deep passing grade of 99.1, Max, the 4th best in PFF history, only behind Zach Wilson in 2020, who, despite what's happened since then with the Jets, he was fantastic in 2020. Joe Burrow in 2019, that's maybe the greatest year ever, and Mason Rudolph in 2015 with Oklahoma State when they were really rolling. Jayden Daniels finished this year with the 4th best deep passing grade ever, and still only 7 turnover-worthy plays on the season. Just an incredible year. Like I said, he went from – I kind of earlier in the year had Jalen Hurts comps on him because of how safe he is with the football. He went from Jalen Hurts to Lamar Jackson and maybe even a combination of the two of them. And you're starting to hear it now, this consideration of being a high first-round pick. This guy's potential – the ceiling, I don't know that there is one, to be honest with you. He's a big play machine, and if he continues to protect the football, I really don't know how you beat him.
Near to I, man. And I love the Jalen Hurts comp, not because of maybe play style, but more because of just the career arc, honestly, because Jayden Daniels mentioned it. At Arizona State, let's face it, he was a great runner always. He was a bad passer at Arizona State, really bad passer. Transfers to LSU, I was very skeptical of it. Then he becomes a much more conservative quarterback. Doesn't take shots down the field, but like you said, he takes care of the football. That's kind of what Jalen Hurts did. You know, from Alabama, wasn't a very good passer at all, but he's a great runner. Transfers to Oklahoma, all of a sudden becomes this great passer, second in Heisman voting. Goes to the Eagles, second-round pick, and now he's a perennial MVP candidate for the Eagles as well. Jayden Daniels, in the second year at LSU, obviously becomes a flamethrower, and now he's the Heisman Trophy winner for how good he's been taking care of the football, throwing the ball deep downfield, and being the best runner in college football at the quarterback position, man. So it is absolutely absurd, and I think, you know, that kind of Jalen Hurts career arc where he just continues to get better, I don't think he's done yet. I think once he gets to the NFL, he'll still get better, man. So I would take this guy in the first round for sure. I think he's the number 3 quarterback in the draft. I know Trevor Sikkema had him, I think, in the top 10 of his latest mock draft. I don't hate that at all either for how good he's been. And just sort of some numbers. You threw out some numbers already about PFF history. Among the 8 Heisman winning quarterbacks that PFF's had in our system since 2014, Jayden Daniels had the second best grade out of all of them, only behind Joe Burrow, who had a 94.9 grade, so 0.2 points more than Jayden Daniels. And everyone thinks Joe Burrow had the greatest season ever. According to our grading, it was 0.2 points better than Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels also had 5,061 total yards. That was third among those 8 Heisman-winning quarterbacks since 2014, just before playoff or bowl games began. Only through that, obviously, because the Heisman was awarded before then. Only Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson had more total yards. And then total touchdowns, he had 50 total touchdowns. That was 5th among those Heisman-winning quarterbacks since 2014. So it's unreal, man, what this guy did this year, and I think he was clearly the Heisman Trophy favorite. And again, we don't root for teams on the show, but we were a little happy when Washington won because Bo Nix was the Heisman favorite going into the Pac-12 championship game. If they won that game, I think it stands to reason he would have remained the favorite and ultimately took home the trophy. But I think justice was served, man. Jayden Daniels winning the Heisman Trophy. Again, check out our interview with him. He's a terrific guy. But yeah, man, I'm really happy for him, and dream come true for him as well. Some other quarterbacks, Dalton, that might have their eyes on the Heisman Trophy are in our top 10 players in the transfer portal right now. So do you want to go over your top 10 players currently in the portal right now?
Absolutely. Starting out, the obvious one, and now he's not in the portal because he's committed to Oregon, and is Dillon Gabriel. Yep. I mean, he was really the best player in this portal cycle, and going to Oregon, just the best fit you could possibly have for him schematically, for Oregon, filling in for Nix. It keeps Oregon in national title contention to have Dillon Gabriel in there at quarterback, right? They still have a veteran team with a lot of guys that are going to come back. They got to figure out receiver. Troy Franklin leaving, but Gabriel, it's too perfect to fit, especially the scheme, the system. It's really not much different than they run at Oklahoma. I think that's as good a fit as you could have, but he was the best player in this portal cycle. Number 2, Princely Umanmielen from the Florida Gators, one of the best, arguably the best pass rusher in the SEC this year. Had a spectacular year. If he came out in the draft, would likely be a top 50 pick.
Yeah.
3, I've got Duke defensive tackle Aeneas Peebles, one of the best pass rushers in the ACC, 6th best interior pass rusher in the country, 5th best pass rush win rate from defensive tackles in the country. Visited Missouri this past Saturday. Would be an absolute force on that team. That's exactly what they're missing. One of the best pass rushers in the ACC, if not the best from the interior. Unbelievable year he had. Unbelievable year the Duke defense had, despite the 7-5 record. That's on their offense. Duke's defense was an elite unit. All right. Number 4, I've got Cam Ward, hot name right now. Florida State looking at him, Ohio State looking at him. Ton of potential. They didn't block too well at Washington State, so there was some games he was held back by his offensive line. Kind of, it's in there. We've seen flashes from Cam Ward, especially early in the season. Go watch his Oregon State tape and tell me that guy's not dangerous. All right. 5, I've got Tyler Barron from Tennessee, the bookend of James Pierce Jr. Excellent pass rusher. Also, that may have been the best pass rushing tandem other than maybe Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell. Yeah. Tennessee had a dynamite pass rush duo, and Tyler Barron. It was not just James Pierce Jr. Tyler Barron was nearly as good as he was. 6, I've got B.J. Green arguably, other than maybe Scatterbo, Arizona State's best player. Only 5 guys had a better pass rush grade off the edge in the Pac-12 than this guy. 3 of them went to UCLA. One of them's Jonah Ellis. One of them's Braylon Trice. So you've got just an absolutely loaded pool in front of him. But he had the 6th best pass rush grade off the edge in the Pac-12. Fantastic player. Number 7, I'm going to James Madison. They're losing everything. They lost their head coach to Indiana. They're losing just about everything. Their quarterback, Jordan McLeod. They're losing all their D-line. But the best player of all of them, Jalen Walker, their linebacker. Max, over the last 2 years, only Ivan Pace Jr. in the entire country has graded higher than Jalen Walker. And nobody has a better coverage grade, not even Jack Campbell, who was drafted in the 1st round on his coverage abilities. This guy has, over the last 2 years, an 86-plus grade, run D, pass rush coverage. He's actually the highest graded defensive player in the transfer portal right now. Whoever gets him, if he's going to Indiana with Kurt Signetti, we'll see. If he's going somewhere else, this dude's a stud at linebacker. 8, Max, what if I told you the 2nd best center in the country was in the transfer portal right now? Ethan Miner. My next 2 guys, both from North Texas. This North Texas team is interesting. They were the highest scoring team in the country with a losing record. Okay, they went 5-7. Highest scoring team in the country with a losing record because their defense gave up the 3rd most points in the country. So, offensively, they're losing just about everybody. And the next 2 guys I have, you've got Ethan Miner, 2nd best overall center in the country, the only one of 2 centers that was in the top 5 of run block and pass block. You already know who the other one is, right?
Jackson Powers Johnson. Yeah, of course.
Jackson Powers Johnson.
JPJ, so dude. Our guy.
You have Jackson Powers Johnson, Remington Winter, and you have Ethan Miner.
Yep.
Then you have his quarterback I have at number 9, Chandler Rogers.
Love it.
Max, I was watching this dude's tape. Cannon alert. I'm telling you, 9th best passing grade in the country this season. If you take out, he wasn't the starter to begin because he transferred in from Louisiana Monroe. Take out like a rough fill-in performance against Cal in week 1. So since week 2, 6th best passing grade in the country, behind Daniels and Nix and Preston Stone, and that's pretty much about it. This guy, 60 to 65 yard rifle. I'm telling you, if you miss out on Cam Ward, take a look at Chandler Rogers. He's a legit rocket-armed pocket passer who's, easy slinging deep balls all over the place. I'm telling these guys on this North Texas offense were talented, and Chandler Rogers at the center of it all. If you want a vertical passer, you want to open things up in the passing game, go get Chandler Rogers. I'm telling you, 90 passing grade this year, absolute cannon. And number 10, I wanted to highlight it for the fun of it. The Lou Groza Award winner, Graham Nicholson from Miami, Ohio. Hit 25 straight field goals this year, tied an FBS record, is in the transfer portal. If you're a big-time team that needs a kicker, you think you kind of struggle at that spot a little bit, there's even some teams at the top who've had some kicker issues this year. He's as reliable as it gets. Didn't miss a kick until the MAC title game. Hit 25 in a row. Has a career long of 52s, got a solid, as reliable as it gets. You know how close these games are at the top. I'm telling you right now, wouldn't shock me if he ended up with a big name team. Lou Groza Award winner. We had Josh Carty. The committee had Nicholson. It was very tight. I probably would put Nicholson 2nd, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
One of the best kickers in the country is in the portal, and I just wanted to highlight that. And according to the Lou Groza committee, the best kicker in the country is in the portal right now. So I think that'd be a big-time ad for any of these teams at the top trying to win on the margins.
I can't believe you put a kicker in the top 10. I respect you putting the Lou Groza Award winner, but, man, there's too many players for me to put a kicker in there. I do love Graham Nicholson, though. He is a superstar. So I respect that. Our actually list differs a lot, but not at the top, man, because number 1 is Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma. Obviously, going to Oregon. I think he's the only one in our entire top 10s for both of us that is actually committed to a school already. He has a 91.4 grade this year. That was 4th among all quarterbacks in the country. He was absolutely stellar this year. Also the 5th best passer rating in the country. The only quarterbacks with a better grade than Dylan Gabriel this year were Jayden Daniels, Bo Nix, and Carson Beck. That's it. Those are the only 3 quarterbacks that had a better grade. Now, the thing with Dylan Gabriel, is that I think he fits in a very specific type of offense, an air raid type of offense. So, if you're a team like Ohio State maybe or someone else that doesn't really run that kind of offense, they might look at maybe a Cam Ward where you want more, rushing ability or anything like that. I think Dillon Gabriel, though, if you have that type of offense, he's the guy that I would want the most. And I think I would think at Oregon, where Bo Nix kind of ran that point guard type role in that offense, I think that fits Dillon Gabriel perfectly to a T, man. So I think this would be a great fit, and I think he's honestly going to be one of the top Heisman contenders next year because I think it's a perfect fit for him. They got some good receivers on that team that should be coming back as well. I think it's going to be a great fit. So Dillon Gabriel, number 1, going to Oregon. Love that fit. Number 2, same as you, Princely Umanmielen from Florida. He had the 5th best pass rush win rate this year, 9th best pressure rate this year. There is rumors that his little brother, Prince Will, I believe his name is at Nebraska. Maybe Prince Lee wants to go to Nebraska as well with his little brother. I've heard Georgia is a school to keep an eye on for him as well. Either way, whatever you think, man, he's going to be one of the top players in the transfer portal and one of the top guys that everyone wants right now, pretty much in the transfer portal, the top defender. Number 3 for me, Cam Ward from Washington State. He's still kind of looking at the NFL draft right now, apparently, so there's a chance he might not even be in the portal or go to a different team, but, he had a really, really good season this year. He had 9th best adjusted completion rate, 80-plus grade as well, 23 big-time throws. That was the 3rd most in the Pac-12. He's got a high ceiling, but also, kind of a low floor. He's kind of still figuring it out. Very high variance player, a guy who puts the ball in harm's way a lot, but also makes some unbelievable plays as well. We have an interview with Cam Ward if you want to check it out on the channel. Terrific kid. Keep an eye on him because I think he's going to be going maybe to the NFL, maybe to Ohio State, maybe to Florida State. Who knows with Cameron Ward. But next up for me is number 4, a guy that you didn't have in your top 10, but I love this guy's potential, is Dante Moore from UCLA, another quarterback. The number 3 overall recruit in the 2023 class. Only a true freshman this past year. 6.4% big-time throw rate. That was 4th in the Pac-12 as well. Like I said, he was the number 2 quarterback in the class behind Arch Manning. Listen, he had an unreal start to the season, really tapered off, then got benched. He's a true freshman. Give this kid some time. I think he could still be maybe a potential number 1 overall pick in 2026 when he eventually declares, or 2027 maybe either. So you get 2 years of Dante Moore if he goes to your school. So I think that's a very, very valuable thing. I've heard Michigan State is a school to keep an eye on for him. I've heard Miami is a school to keep an eye on for him. I've heard there's even a chance he might go back to Oregon and sit behind Dillon Gabriel for a year. He was originally committed to Oregon, then he flipped to UCLA. Maybe he does that. Maybe he goes to Michigan, I've heard, because he's from the Michigan area. He's from Detroit, Michigan. Maybe he sits behind J.J. McCarthy for a year as well. So Dante Moore, I think, is a very, very valuable piece, especially because you're getting 2 years of Dante Moore, which is very valuable as well. Next up for me is Walter Nolan. Speaking of guys who are highly rated recruits, Walter Nolan was the number 1 recruit in the 2022 class, ahead of Travis Hunter, actually. So 9.9% pass rush win rate this past season, which was 4th in the SEC D tackles, 7 sacks, which was 2nd among SEC D tackles. Also had the 3rd most tackles for loss or no gain among SEC D tackles as well. I think this guy has a very high ceiling. Obviously, he was a number 1 recruit in the country coming out of high school. And I think wherever he goes, he could be a superstar. And Oregon has kind of been the favorite for him so far. So Oregon getting Walter Nolan with Dillon Gabriel, that'd be a heck of a transfer portal class for Dan Lanning. Number 6, another guy you had in your top 10, Dalton, Tyler Barron. I mean, he was unreal this year. I think one of the most unsung heroes in the SEC. Obviously, James Pierce Jr., who we love, was a superstar, but they had another really good edge alongside him, man, and Tyler Barron. 41 pressures this past season, tied for 5th in the SEC. 17% pressure rate, also 5th among SEC edge defenders. Also tied for 5th with 12 tackles for loss or no gain among Power 5 edge defenders as well. So really well-rounded player, Tyler Barron. I think he's kind of an underrated player right now. BJ Green at number 7, another guy you had, the Arizona State edge defender. 56 pressures this past season, which was 6th in the Power 5. He had a 14.8% pressure rate, 7th among Pac-12 edges. And then also last year, on a little bit less sample size, but still enough to be considered, 22.4% pressure rate, which led the nation last year. Even above guys like Braylon Trice, Will Anderson Jr., whoever, he still had the best pressure rate in the country last year. So B.J. Green, another really great pass rusher. I think it'd be a really valuable piece for any other school. Andrew Makuba, I have here at number 8, the cornerback / safety from Clemson. He only allowed 0.42 yards per coverage snap. That was 3rd among Power 5 corners. Last year, he was not good. He had a 50.2 grade, but he also played through injuries that pretty much nobody else would play through. He had a dislocated elbow that he was going through the entire season, sprained MCL as well, among other injuries during his sophomore year at Clemson. So he really struggled last year, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of that was due to injuries. You saw this year, he played a lot slot corner, was really good there. And also his true freshman year, he had a 77 grade as well, playing the kind of hybrid free safety slot corner type role. He's a versatile chess piece, man, and a guy that a lot of people had as a first-round pick entering the season, and I think he could still be a very valuable piece for whoever he goes to in the transfer portal. I know I've seen Texas as kind of the heavy favorite for him right now. Ole Miss is kind of up there too, but, man, if he goes to Texas, that'd be a great, great get for them. And then number 9 for me, a guy that we also interviewed, Raheem Sanders, Rocket Sanders, the running back from Arkansas. He had a knee injury that he battled through all year, kind of limited his effectiveness, only had 209 yards on 62 attempts. But entering the season, he was my number 3 running back in the country. Last year, he had 1,400 yards, 6th most in the Power 5, 16 carries that went for 20-plus yards, 2nd most in the Power 5. So the 2nd most runs of 20-plus yards. He's a very fast back. He's 237 pounds, too. Big back, but also can hit the home run. I mean, I think Raheem Sanders, I know he visited South Carolina. Wherever he goes, man, I still think it's a really good running back. And then finally, rounding out my top 10 is a linebacker, but not the one you had, Dalton. Jayden Daniels from Maryland. He kind of struggled a little bit this year in his sophomore year. 66.9 grade, 47.1 coverage grade. But the year before, as a true freshman, he had a 78.5 grade and an 83.1 coverage grade. And in his true freshman year, he was the 7th most valuable linebacker in the nation, according to our wins above average metric. So I think Jayden Daniels still has really, really awesome potential, only heading into his true junior season. I think this is a guy that, I think Michigan is taking him in on a visit right now. They might be losing a couple of linebackers, Michael Barrett, Junior Colson. I think Jayden Daniels could be a really, really good replacement for him, but I think he's a guy that not a lot of people are talking about right now, but I still think he has a lot of potential as a linebacker in the transfer portal.
Yeah, I agree. I think the two things for me that stick out in your top 10, one is Dante Moore, and it's definitely the potential angle. We've seen it. I don't, when I watched it earlier in the year, I don't think he was the best fit for Chip Kelly's offense. And I know a lot of times you recruit talent, and I've been trying to figure out, what would it be? I think your mention there of Michigan would be that would be perfect.
Yeah.
I really do. I think he's really a pro-style passer. I think he could play under center. True pocket passer, deep ball, play action. I've been racking my head over this one for a while. Where would he fit in? I actually think Michigan would be a really nice fit. He's got an even better arm than J.J. McCarthy. I don't know that he's as mobile as J.J., but I think exactly what Harbaugh would be looking for in that offense, in play action and deep shots. That's Dante Moore. Dude's saying he's got an absolute hose. He could throw the ball as far as can be. And I think if you give him time in the pocket, Michigan's always got good offensive lines, big-time run games, big-time play action. That might actually be the perfect fit for him there. The other one that sticks out to me is Raheem Sanders. Yeah. And I think he's kind of a forgotten man this year because I believe he only played 6 games. Mm-hmm. But the sheer depth, the number of awesome running backs that are in, I didn't even think about Raheem Sanders till I saw your list. The number of awesome running backs in the portal right now. Sanders, Tawi Walker, Trevor Etienne, Donald Chaney from Miami, Treshaun Ward, and several, Marcus Major, several others that I can't even bring up off the top of my head. There was so many running backs, and Sanders is another one. Just an animal at Arkansas, too. I'd be curious to see where all these guys – I'm real curious to see where Etienne goes, too. Because that dude's, you already know his brother was loaded with talent. They're a little bit different style, but man, oh man, I can't wait to see where all these backs go.
The ETN, I don't know if you saw, but there's rumors that he's really looking at Georgia right now, Trevor Etienne.
Oh, it's a perfect fit.
I would love
it would
that.
be, I know any running back is a perfect fit for Georgia, but him especially, he's a little bit different than Travis. Travis was kind of like a spread offense, like space runner. Even now, like much better on the edges, kind of more the dual threat, say sort of Alvin Kamara. Trevor Etienne's like an old school, like classic back. And if you threw him in, could you imagine him Georgia running all that toss sweep, getting behind those big pullers with Trevor Etienne? That's such a perfect fit for him. If he went there, good for him, because I don't think there's a better fit in the country for a back like that. I mean, I think he's a lot like Dejon Edwards, to be honest with you. I think it's a very similar dynamic.
Yeah, and then Raheem Sanders, like I said, visited South Carolina. Another guy, Dalton, I remember you brought this guy up earlier in the year. I don't know if you saw the end of the portal. Jaquavius Marks, the Mississippi State back, is in the portal now.
Yep. That was one I forgot. That's another one. Him too. Yep, another really solid back who was just on an offense that was struggling, man. Yeah. I mean, like I said, and we'll get more on this in future episodes, but there was a ton of guys. He was another one I had written down actually here. The number of backs, the number of quarterbacks, and then there's a lot of talented defensive players too. There was some guys that I looked at. I even think about a guy like Simeon Barrow from Michigan State, 3-year starter there. Excellent defensive. You want just a rock solid two-way defensive tackle. That's your guy. I mean, there's so many players at quarterback, at running back, and on the defensive side. Man, oh man, there's going to be some talent flying around, and I think we got to prepare ourselves. It's going to be like this every year. I mean, the best kicker in the country is in the portal too. I mean, just talent flying around all over the place, and like you said, 5-star talent, guys who've produced for several years, Heisman candidates like Gabriel, and if Cam Ward gets in the right situation, or even some of these backs, man. I mean, Trevor Etienne at Georgia might put up 1,600 yards, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I just real quick, I just saw this too, but Simeon Barrow actually withdrew.
My apologies. He was in our.
I just want to get through that before Michigan State people kind of freak out. Yeah, he was in our database. I don't know if that was updated because I know he withdrew when he did that. But yeah, man, it is really loaded. Is there a position that you think maybe is lacking a little bit in the portal right now? I know kind of the offensive tackle class. I was kind of. Didn't love. There are a couple guys I like there, like Bless Harris from Florida State. I think he's a solid player. Chase Pisantis is the guy that everyone's kind of freaking out over, the A&M tackle, who's a true freshman this year. He struggled this year, but also he's a really highly rated recruit. But is there any position that you're kind of looking at like, that's not really a strong position right now?
I think actually I don't think there's a ton of elite pass catchers. I think there's some good ones. I had a hard time. It kind of hurt me a little to leave Colin Lacey from South Alabama out at receiver. Chris Brazell from Tulane. Josh Kelly could follow Cam Ward somewhere from Washington State, but I don't think there's a ton of elite pass catchers. Tight end, the tight end position, honestly, was probably the only one where I really didn't write anybody down. Not any elite football players that I put in a top 10 of a list like this, but to me, offensively, it leans heavily towards the quarterbacks and the running backs. Not a ton of pass catchers, not a ton of offensive linemen. The best one might be Fernando Carmona from San Jose State. He was the 8th highest graded tackle in the country. The rest of the offensive pieces to me, offensive line, wide receiver, tight end, were much thinner. Obviously, we've had a ton of big name quarterbacks, and we'll probably get to all those at some point. And I think this running back class is loaded. If you're lacking at the running back position, just get in the portal and take any one. I mean, there's big time players left and right, but I think the rest of the offensive positions, it's a little thin. There's not a ton of elite talent.
Yeah, like Juice Wells, I know a lot of people love from South Carolina. Donovan McCulley is a guy I really like, the wide receiver from Indiana. But yeah, I agree with you. Kind of the pass catchers. I will shout out one tight end that I love. Jalen Conyers from Arizona State. He actually committed to Texas Tech, so he's out of the portal already. He's got his school. He was one of the best tight end. I had him as a top 10 tight end entering the season. Obviously, the whole Arizona State thing didn't go well for anyone this year, but he's a really good player after the catch, man, and I think that was a huge get by Texas Tech to get Jalen Conyers. So, I wanted to shout him out there. So before we move on, Dalton, is there anyone that you want to shout out that just missed your top 10, but you still think is a really, really valuable piece that's in the portal right now?
Wow. Considering all the names I have in front of me. I think there's two. I think Colin Lacey is the big receiver to watch. Had a huge season for South Alabama. And honestly, I've been on this in the regular season too, I don't know why Kyle McCord left Ohio State, but I think that's a valuable piece, man. If you've got good pass protection, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the country in a clean pocket. And even against Michigan, he showed that. I don't know what happened there with Kyle McCord, but I know that he's been looking at places like Nebraska and Michigan State, elsewhere in the Big Ten. I think whoever gets Kyle McCord gets a really underrated player. And I know he threw the pick at the end of the game, and we even said, look, if he's pressured, yeah, he's a pocket quarterback. But I don't think – and he's also got now a ton of big game experience, one at Notre Dame, played at Michigan. I think Kyle McCord's a really valuable guy to have. Like, if he were to end up at Nebraska, considering their quarterback, I believe they finished the year with the worst passing grade in the country. If they go from worst passing grade in the country to Kyle McCord – they could be doing a lot worse. I mean, Matt Rule, I think that would be a big get for Matt Rule if he does pull that off. I just, I'm not going to sit here and like totally blame Kyle McCord for them losing to Michigan. Absolutely not. I mean, you get him under pressure, he makes some bad decisions, but that's a lot of guys, man. And we saw Caleb Williams do that a ton this year. So I think McCord is a guy. I know Ward's getting a lot of talk. Riley Leonard's obviously gotten a lot of talk. I think there's other good, but Kyle McCord is a guy who stands out to me for the year he had, all the pressure he was under, and still to go 11-1 and come within 35 yards of beating Michigan. I think that's a valuable piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the guys that just missed out on my list that you guys could find at pff.com pretty soon, my top 25. Trevor Etienne was number 11 for me. DJ Uiagalelei, I had it right there at number 12. I think he's a really, really underrated quarterback. I know everyone kind of wrote him off after the Clemson saga, but even his last Clemson year, I thought he was pretty solid. Really solid this year for Oregon State. And he's apparently making maybe might be moving back to the ACC, Dalton, but it seems to be down between Florida State and Louisville. But Louisville already got Tyler Shuck, the quarterback from Texas Tech, to go there. So maybe they might be done, honestly, in the portal. So it might be Florida State. They might wait and see what Cam Ward does first before they decide to take DJ in. But that might be the guy for them after Jordan Travis is done.
I'm a little surprised that we haven't heard more noise about him with Michigan State following Jonathan Smith.
That's what I thought too.
That would, and I honestly think in like cold weather, Michigan State trying to run the ball, and I would think maybe Jonathan Smith would want somebody familiar. I know he's looking at McCord, he's looking at a few other guys, but I'm a little surprised we haven't heard any noise about that. I know the Florida State spot maybe is the most coveted spot, even though they're going to lose those two receivers and maybe Jaheim Bell, but yeah. But I would think I'm always curious when these things come up with coaches moving, right? Like all those James Madison kids, right? Like, would they follow Cignetti to Indiana, or how many guys from Duke? Like, I think about Aeneas Peebles, and he just visited Missouri. Could he just follow Elko to A&M? Yeah. I always wonder about that dynamic of who's going to just follow the coach that's heading out, because that's why they're all transferring anyway. I don't think Jordan McLeod at quarterback would start at A&M. He'll go somewhere else. But some of these guys, especially on defense for them, or so I was a little surprised with Uiagalelei that we haven't heard, Jonathan Smith's trying to reel him in with them.
Yeah, so was I, honestly, because I think they need a quarterback for sure. And I don't know what – I mean, Dante Moore maybe they can get, but I don't know, man. It's really interesting. So
they don't have one. Caden Hauser is in the portal too, I believe.
And they just lost one. One of them just transferred out today, I think, one of their backup quarterbacks. So – yeah, it's like it's interesting what's going on right now at Michigan State and who they're going to ultimately get in the transfer portal. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, so on Wednesday, we're actually going to be playing a little matchmaker. We're going to try to match up a lot of these top guys with schools that we think they would fit with, and also kind of tell you guys the rumors with them as well. So like where they're looking at and where they're visiting and what schools are kind of the favorites to get all these top guys. So we're going to do that on Wednesday. So it'll be a very, very fun episode on Wednesday. So this is just kind of our look at like what we think the top guys in the transfer portal are right now. Want to remind you guys too, before we get to our trivia, to please find our audio channels and leave reviews there. Leave 5-star reviews. Leave questions there. We'll get to your trivia questions, or get to your mailbag questions, excuse me, and get your questions and your takes in as well. So make sure you guys do that. And then, of course, please, we have our Bowl Game Mania that we have as well. So if you guys want to join Dalton and I in picking every single bowl game, you could do that. And the winner of our Bowl Game Mania group will get a free subscription to PFF for an entire year. So It doesn't cost anything for you to join, and just all you got to do is just spend 10 minutes picking out every bowl game, and then if you win, you get a free PFF sub for a year, which is very valuable, honestly. So make sure you guys join that. The link will be in the description to join that on ESPN. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun for Bowl Game Mania, which bowl games start this weekend. So make sure you get those picks in before the bowl games start this Saturday. All right, Dalton, before we leave, we got to get back to something that we haven't done in a few weeks, and I missed it. It's our trivia. And not only are we getting trivia back, Dalton, we have producer Eli on the mic with us this time. It's not just us reading his graphics that he makes perfectly. It's Eli actually reading out the questions and options to us. So want to welcome in producer Eli right now for the first question.
Thank you, Max, and I'm excited. It should be a good one. These are some good questions that got sent in by Sulf, so first got to give him a shout-out. And so we'll just get things underway. So the first question, we have Washington, Oregon, and this team are the only 3 FBS teams with 100-plus catches gaining 15-plus yards in the regular season. The options are A, SMU, B, Texas, C, Washington State, and D, LSU.
LSU. I'm going LSU.
I'm going LSU. I'm gonna take the other one that sticks out to me is SMU, but I'm gonna go LSU
too. Yeah, all right. We're both going LSU here.
That was very quick, and the answer is C, Washington State.
Wow, look at Cam Ward, man. Maybe
Cam Ward, man, they went with the portal theme is what they did to us.
Yeah, maybe he needs a bump in our rankings, Dawn. All right, so we're both 0 for 1 right now. All right, let's go to.
I couldn't not go LSU there. There's no way
that seems so easy.
That's just too much.
With all the deep throws. Yeah, I'm actually surprised it wasn't LSU up there. All right, question number 2.
Question number 2, we have which Power 5 team had the fewest pressures, 119, in the regular season? A, Rutgers, B, Northwestern, C, Virginia, or D, Georgia Tech?
Who was cheeks at pass rushing this year, Dalton? I'm trying to think.
Wow.
Damn. I don't know who's like terrible. I'm trying to think who was terrible this year.
Well, I'm also thinking about it was who was the team you said right after Rutgers?
It is Rutgers, Northwestern, Virginia, and Georgia Tech.
Oh, see, it's those 2 first ones where sometimes I go the opponent. What if they just played teams that ran the ball a lot?
Yeah, good point.
But I like Rutgers' defense.
Yeah, I think Aaron Lewis is still there. That edge defender who's really good.
There's Northwestern, Virginia.
Northwestern had a good year. I'm gonna go. Give me Virginia. I'm gonna go Virginia.
I'm gonna go Georgia Tech.
Okay, Virginia, Georgia Tech.
And Dalton is right. The answer is Georgia Tech.
Oh.
1 for 2.
I know that they were in a lot of shootouts. They and especially I remember when they played North Carolina, even though they beat them, it still felt like Drake May was standing back there by himself. Yeah. That sounded right to me for some reason.
Damn. All right. Question number 3. I'm 0 for 2 right now. That's not good.
Question number 3. Oregon allowed the fewest pressures, 44, in pass protection in the Power 5. Which Power 5 team ranked second, only allowing 63 in the regular season? The answers are in between West Virginia, Texas, Kansas, and Miami of Florida.
I'm going to go Texas. I think it's Texas. Texas had a really good O-line this year.
Texas.
And they ran the ball a lot, too.
It was Texas, Miami, and what were the other 2?
West Virginia and Kansas.
They ran the ball a lot, too. Great pass protecting O-line, and they didn't pass the ball as much as I think the other schools did. So that's why
I'm surprised. I'm surprised it's not Georgia.
I was gonna say, if he said Georgia, I was going to go Georgia. But I don't. Now that you didn't say it, I think it's Texas.
I kind of think it's Texas also.
You going Texas?
Yeah, I'm going with it too. Because Miami kind of comes and goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going Texas
they
also.
Run the ball a lot too. As fewest pressures, not even like pressure rate. So I think it's Texas. What is is it Texas, Eli?
The answer is West Virginia.
West Va.
Dude.
Wide open. Open offense, getting rid of the ball.
Oh my God, I'm 0 for 3. I'm getting nervous now.
We've got question 4, needing Max to get on the board. And we have, which non-defensive lineman led the FBS in total pressures, 35, in the regular season? We've got Clemson linebacker Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Oklahoma State linebacker Colin Oliver, Penn State linebacker Abdul Carter, and Rutgers linebacker Mohamed Toure.
I think it's Colin Oliver. He's a converted edge defender, and they use him in that a lot still. Even though he's technically an off-ball linebacker, based off how much he played it this year, he was a converted edge that they use a lot in blitz packages. And I know he's still a really good blitzer too. So I'm gonna go Colin Oliver. Final answer.
Who was the third one again?
Abdul Carter.
That's my guy.
Penn State linebacker.
Yeah. Sticks, number 11. Next, Micah Parsons.
Oh, he could get after it too.
I really feel good about Colin. I know I'm not going to lead you astray like Texas don't, but I do feel good about Colin Oliver because I know he's a good.
You don't think it's your Nittany Lion? You don't think it's Carter?
No, I don't think so. I think Oliver was a great pass rusher when he was an edge, and then they converted him to off ball, but he still rushes the passer a lot, and he's still really good at it. So I'm going to go Colin Oliver. Look, the only bright spot on that.
I'm gonna go with Carter for the fun of it.
All right.
And you should have listened to Max.
Woo!
Colin Oliver.
Right on the board. Thank God. If I got that wrong,
the conversion thing, I should have went with it. It felt. Well, you know what it felt like? It felt like Carter every time he got one, it was like wicked impactful. Like,
yeah.
He's really.
You want to hear?
They don't give you that number 11 for nothing.
Want to hear a fun fact? When we interviewed Joe Alt, who you can find in the interview, by the way, but Joe Alt, I asked him who was the best pass rushers he's ever faced against before this year. And he said Miles Murphy when he faced him, and Colin Oliver was the other one. He said Colin Oliver, his speed, man, was unreal. He's like, I couldn't handle it. So, yeah, pretty fun fact.
Why did they move him off of the edge then? Because I've seen him before. They made him a linebacker. Now he kind of plays that.
Because Mike Gundy wanted to stop. Mike Gundy wanted to stop playing defense this year. That's basically why he moved him to off-ball linebacker.
Okay, well,
as we saw in the Big 12 championship game. So that's the reason why. No, I don't know why. I think it was a dumb decision too, honestly. But still a really good blitzer apparently. So all right, I'm 1 for 4. You're 1 for 4. Dalton. If either of us get this right, we win trivia this week. Or if we both get it wrong, then we both lose trivia this week. So
and then Dave wins. Yeah.
And then Dave wins. Yeah. Dave and Eli win.
Or Eli wins. The host wins. The host wins the tiebreaker.
House wins. House always wins.
I will take the win, but I think you guys can get this one. This quarterback led the FBS in completions, 97, and yards, 1,797, while targeting single coverage this year. The options are Bo Nix, Drake May, Dylan Gabriel, and Michael Penix Jr.
It's got to be Penix, right?
I think it's Penix.
Yeah, because
you don't see
was one-on-one a lot, and they can't double cover with all the receivers they got, really.
I just don't think Drake May had the raw numbers like that.
And Penix led the nation in passing too.
And Bo Nix, you just don't play man coverage against Oregon. It's gutsy. Most teams don't. Washington did a good amount, but most teams don't do that.
And Penix had the most passing yards overall too, so I'm pretty sure that would translate. I'm gonna say Penix.
Yeah, and it's just I think about Washington and I think about Odunze making some catch that he shouldn't make. Or that normal people don't make. I'm going to go with Penix also. That sounds right to me.
Right. And you guys are both right. Oh. Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah.
Damn, so we both didn't win though either, Dom. Damn it. That was actually we probably should have.
Does that mean Dave and Eli win anyway? Or is there a bonus question?
Because we still were 2 for 5. So it's not like we got most of them right either. We still won 40%.
Shout out to IJF. We used to do a trivia segment with them, but we had a tiebreaker question at the very end. So I'll talk to Solf about that. And we normally had it where it would be something like in the Penix question. We would say, how many yards did he have while targeting secret coverage? And then whoever would get the closest would win.
That actually is not a bad idea either. Yeah, we could have done that. But yeah, all right, not bad. I'm 2 for 5. I'll take it. It's not great, don't get me wrong, but Solf also gets deep in the weeds in Ultimate too. So I'll take any question I get right with Solf, honestly, but not too bad. All right, 2 for 5 for each of us, Dalton. Again, remind you guys, please leave reviews on our audio channels as well. We're trying to pump those numbers up a little bit, and when we get to a mailbag episode, which will be very soon, I promise you, please leave your questions, and we're going to take those questions from the audio first before we get to our social medias or anything like that either. So leave questions there. Leave your takes there as well. We want to respond and react to your takes. Even if you don't have a question for either of us you just want to take that you want us to read on the show, we'll be gladly do that as well. So we're going to do that. And of course, join the Bowl Mania, man. It's free. You win a free PFF subscription. I think we have like 15 people that's in that group right now, Dalton. So you have a pretty good chance of winning, honestly, too. Free PFF subscription. I believe it's about $120 a year for the subscription, which is honestly way cheaper than it probably should be for how much you get with the PFF subscription, but you get a free one regardless if you win this Bowl Mania and if you beat Dalton and I in the group. So make sure you join that. You only have until Saturday. Saturday is when bowl games begin, so it gets locked after that. So make sure you do it before Saturday. Pick all of the games, pick the national championship game, and compete with us and compete with some your fellow college football fans as well, which would be really, really fun. So we're looking forward to that as well. And then, of course, on Wednesday, we're going to have another great transfer portal kind of episode of kind of playing matchmaker of a lot of the guys that are still in the portal and where they should go and where they actually are looking at as well. We're going to do that as well. But for Dalton Wasserman, for producer Eli back there, I'm Max Chadwick, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday.